Hi, good evening once again, coming to you live from sunny southern coastal Delaware. I'm Jon Bandish, and I help do the social media here for the American Artist Professional League, and everything single. Uh, uh, what day of the week is today? Uh, oh, here we have Rebecca's already logged on. I don't even have to go. That's late. We're a little bit behind here on that, but hi to everybody that's already starting to tune in. We're just trying to get logged on here. I'm clicking accept, and oh, there we go. It only took one time to for it to happen. Usually, it's a few clicks to get Instagram rolling. But coming to you live every single what is today? Today is Thursday. Every Thursday at 5 o'clock on Eastern Standard Time, we're going to come to you with one of you, the followers and members of the American Artist Professional League. And today we have Rebecca Tait. Hi, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
It is. Oh, I'm doing great. The weather is sunny. It's not as cold today as it's been a couple of days ago. It went from 80 degrees to 50 degrees. So we were out on the beach, and then the next day we were bundled up in winter clothes. So who knows what the weather's like. So that's Mother Nature for you. So it's a pleasure to meet you. I've been an admirer of your work for quite some time. And again, thank you for coming and talking with us today. Oh, somebody might have frozen. I don't know what's happening. We have a little frozen end on the other end of that, so we'll work out some of those details. If you're tuning into this, thank you again for tuning in. Again, every Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we're going to come to you live with you, our members. If you're interested in participating, please feel free to sign up. We have a few spots left open for the rest of the year. And then we're going to continue on in January. We're going to continue to do this every Thursday with you. Our members of the American Artist Professional League. We've got a lot going on right now. The 95th Grand National Exhibition, or GNE, is coming in just a few short weeks, coming from New York. We're going to have a couple of special live editions. We're going to be up there on this coming Sunday for the intake of the work, and then for hanging. So I'll go live there. We'll get a special little sneak peek. That following Friday is going to be the reception and award ceremony for all the prizes. There's so many prizes that are out there right now. Been trying to post all of them. There's so many sponsors. So many of our friends are helping to promote this. This is our big show of the year. It happens every year in November at the Salmagundi Club, the world famous Salmagundi Club. When I first got into the show, I was so honored and like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm in this. This is such an amazing venue. If you've never had the chance to get to Manhattan and get to the Salmagundi Club, you are completely missing out. I'm sorry to say. You've got to find some time to get up there, and what an amazing old building. You know, I'm lucky enough. I was born and raised in Philly. We've got a bunch of those as well. Hey, we're back, Rebecca.
I don't know what happened.
It's
your
technology.
video's done. I was like,
it's just technology. I'm just plugging the 95th GNE Grand National Exhibition that's happening really in just a few short weeks here. We're going to be up this Sunday doing a special Instagram Live for the intake and part of the hanging of the show. So I'm super excited about that. I'll be up there as well the following Friday for the reception and awards ceremony, and we'll go and do a special live cast then as well. But enough about all of that. We're here to talk with you, and I'm so excited to talk with you. I've been an admirer of your work for quite some time. I'll just say, on a selfish end, I get to talk to all of you amazing artists that we're all members of this. It's such a great thing for me. I just feel like I get so much out of these, and I hope that with people tuning in live, we've got a bunch of people, you're all waving, saying hi. I'm trying to wave and say hi to you all. And anybody that comes in and watches this perhaps later on, you know, there's just so much insight. So thank you from a personal standpoint. Thank you for coming and talking and sharing everything about you and your artistic journey.
You're more than welcome. I've been looking forward to this. I enjoy these videos that you're doing. The podcasts are amazing.
Well, thank you. You know,
they've been very interesting.
Part of the point of this is that, you know, for as similar as so many of us are, because, you know, we're all interested in realism, we're all very unique as well. I mean, just everything from subject matter. I mean, I'm focused on coastal centric pieces and water. One of my is behind me right now.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And your work as well. And then we have figurative work, you know, so like there's plethora of things. And then what's also fun for me is that so many of us have similar, but really not similar artistic journeys and backgrounds. People are self-taught, some people went to schools, different types of schooling. So I guess we can start this there with you. Tell us a little bit about your artistic journey along the way. Where did you study with? Are you self-taught? Things like that.
Mine began very young. My father was a professional artist and a watercolorist. And when I was about 7, we were sitting on the beach and he was just doing pen and ink sketches of the water and the surrounding beach houses. And I had my head against his shoulder and I just said, I want to do that. I think this is so amazing. I want to do this. And he took it very serious and started grooming me at age 7. I wasn't allowed to study in children's classes. I had to go to his adult friends, and I was the only kid, and I was like 45 pounds and scared to death studying. I had a perspectives teacher who was 80 years old.
Oh,
Who
wow.
would slam a straight edge down in my face. Yeah, so he really trained me very serious, and he was a real stickler for drawing well, everything drawn from life. And he always had a red marker in his pocket, and I'd bring my work to him to show him, and he'd look at it, and he'd pull out that red marker, and he'd make changes and say, well, I want this moved here, and you have this out of perspective, and this is too small, and where's the light coming from here? And go ahead, go do it again. You'll get it right next time. He was great because I didn't dare show him my work until it was the highest level of excellence I was able to do at the time. And he wasn't grueling, like he understood, you know, that's really good for a 10-year-old. That's really good for a 12-year-old. But he worked me very, very seriously from age 7. And then when I was about 14, I was sort of a jack of all trades. I was in high school playing sports, violin, student council, everything. And he said, Nat, it's time to let that all go. You can pick one sport in your art. I picked tennis in my art, and I was just training just about every day at that point. So by the time I was 18, I was selling and just taking it very serious. I started a teaching studio at age 20 and went to Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Art and studied there. Again, that was very classical training, and went in and out, studied with different people. I would travel and study with them, and all different painters, workshops all over the country. And then at age 40, my father had just passed 2 weeks prior, and I had the opportunity to study with Nelson Shanks. He was opening up his own atelier, and through a friend, he chose about 12 artists, and we were brought in full time, and I would arrive at 8:30 in the morning and study till 4 in the afternoon, and he taught us, and we were all professional artists. All of us, that was the deal. We all had to be working professional artists, everyone willing to teach. Now, I already had a very successful teaching studio with like 75 students a week I was teaching. That would start at 4, and I teach 4 to 10. So I get up at 6, out by 7, at studio in Caminati, and worked from 8:30 on, get in the car, drive home. Students would be entering my studio, and I'd teach. So I was able to take everything that he taught me and immediately reword it and put it out to my students. And that multi-level usage in my brain really drove all the points home, that I had to understand it to be able to teach it. But he also really killed our egos in a good way. When we got there, as I said, we were all professional. We were all very good and extra good in our own way. You know, some were better painters, some were better drawers, some were better anatomists. But he had us all do 1-minute poses for 6 months in charcoal, and you couldn't keep them. And it was just teaching the eye to see at a level that I've never known. And it was funny because my father had really been my main mentor up to that point, and he died in July of let me see, well, I guess it was 2002, and I started with Nelson October 1st, 2002, and he became my next mentor. And my father was a watercolorist and is the one really responsible for teaching me to draw well. And that was, like I said, I will forever be thankful to him for that, because that truly learning to draw well takes years and years and years, because it's not so much methods and materials. It's really practice and demanding a higher level of excellence of yourself continually. But Nelson taught me to paint in oil. He was an amazing painter. And my peers also taught me. We all, Nelson was busy in his own studio at times and would leave the atelier and go back to his studio after giving us our tasks, and we would work together and help each other. And at a high level, egos kind of went in the back seat, and we all worked together, all of us kind of critiquing each other and all pointing us out what we did best to help each other. But we now all teach there. I also teach there, as well as I run my own studio here at the studio at Glen Gables. And after that, Rod Liberace, John DeMartin, Ted Seth Jacobs, I went to France and studied with him. And they really had a huge impact on me. And everyone kind of, I think as artists, we're Swiss cheese. We've got these strong points and then these holes. And either a really good mentor needs to find those holes, or you have to figure them out on your own. And, color theory and all of those things, they became very important because my father didn't press that as much as drawing. But I'm so grateful for that solid drawing foundation, because I just believe that's what gives me my strong point. Is I can draw anything you put in front of me, because I probably had to at some point in time, and I didn't want that red marker to come out. So you learn to keep going at it until it's absolutely your very best.
So first off, there's a whole lot to unpack here, which is great. Well, for one, boy, I feel like all the students that I have, I say the same thing that your dad was saying, like, you got to be able to draw. If you can't draw, nothing else is going to work. You need to be able to draw. I don't care if you're a sculptor. I don't care what you are. You have to be able to draw. So right off the bat,
right? It's craft.
Like we're talking the same language in a fun way, right? And then, boy, oh boy, what I wouldn't give to be able to study with Nelson. So for people that are out there that perhaps are not aware, Nelson Shanks started Studio Incominati in Philly. It's actually right around the corner from PAFA, from Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Art. I was accepted there for a short time as a grad student. That's a whole other story of life for me. But PAFA is the oldest art school and museum in the country, and they are an amazing program there. So for people that are not familiar with it, maybe you're on the West Coast, or these are amazing places where you studied at with. I mean, Nelson Shanks is, I think, arguably one of the greatest living painters. Well, he's not living now, of course, but one of the greatest painters in my mind in the last 400 or 500 years. I mean, he was just so good. When you see his work, one, it, which is a testament in and of itself, but two, there's just no comparison, right? So, if anybody ever compared me to certain people, it's like, first off, there's a flattering aspect, but second off, it's like, whoa, there's time out. He's just on another level. He was so good. I wouldn't be surprised if
you can feel the blood.
And that's it. When you can look at a painting,
like they were just wet.
Exactly.
Eyes are blinking. He's amazing.
We're talking the same thing, because I've said these same things. If you can make somebody believe that they can feel the temperature of something with paint, well, now you're on to something, which I wouldn't be surprised if Nelson Shanks was an alien. I'm just going to say it out there. He's so good. I'm not even sure he was human. I'm just going to say it.
He wasn't an alien.
All jokes aside.
He was a character, though. He was a character. And it's funny. We butt heads. He sensed a vanity in me. And I think he was right. After about 6 months, he squashed me one day. And I think I needed it. I went in there knowing I was a really good drawer. but I wasn't a great painter. And I think I went in with some arrogance that I didn't acknowledge at the time, but he just always was at me, at me, at me. And he believed in me. And I know that. He actually, Annalisa Shanks and Alexander Shanks, he drove them an hour every Saturday to study here at my studio under me, because he liked how I taught drawing and how I draw. But he knew I had a lot to learn with painting. And I'm very grateful for him. And it was totally a different way. It was a lot of absorption, a lot of watching. He didn't give it to you on a silver platter. He really made you reach a level of frustration and then figure it out yourself. And then, yay, good for you. Like he would praise you when you got it. But he really was definitely a teacher for people who are stubborn and older and ready to just try to figure it out. But he was gifted. His work was amazing. And you waited for the eyes to blink on his paintings. It was a true honor studying under him and knowing him, and on a personal level, traveling with him, teaching with him. He ate dinner at my house and sat on my sofa in front of the fireplace, and I got to see him relax and not be the artist, because he was painting Christmas morning. That man painted every day of the year. It was a passion that I don't think many of us will ever quite be able to conjure up. He got a lot of painting in. I think he passed when he was, I'm thinking 74, and he lived 5 lives as an artist within those years, because he painted constantly.
Well, if you can't tell, I just turned into the Hulk. My face is green because I'm jealous with a bit of envy here. I'm Nelson Shanks sitting on my couch having dinner. This is like the kind of stuff that I could dream of, right? We could sit there and have hours to unpack with everything with Studio and Caminati and Nelson Shanks, and I feel almost like we should just talk about that. But there's so much to your artistic journey and your art as well that kind of comes as a part of that. Do you want to talk a little bit about subject matter and some of the choices that you've made in your subject matter? Because I mean, for me, I'm kind of curious, and I think other people that are familiar with your work would as well. Talk a little bit about some of the decisions that you've made with some of that.
Well, I realized very young that I really enjoy eyes looking back at me. That I always say to my students when I take them to a museum, I want you to find one painting that you had to keep going back to. What paintings resonate with you? And that's what you should be focusing on. Are you a landscape painter, a floral painter, a painter of life painting with anatomy, with nudes? With me, it's character paintings. I love William Merritt Chase and Antonia Mancini and
Il Pittore Pazzo.
Pardon me?
Il Pittore Pazzo. Antonio Mancini. Yeah, I know his work very well.
Yes, and the costumed model, I love. I love the story. I painted the nudes, series, and I teach anatomy and I teach life painting. But although I can do it, I choose to put clothes on a model because I want a story there. I want a narrative. And the piece that I'm putting in the Grand National, my son Ryan posed for, and he stood there in costume, and I want a story. I want to feel. I love to get behind my easel and on the other side and bring people in to look at my work and watch where their eyes go. And quick, what are you thinking? What are you seeing? What's the story? I want to tell a full story. I think there's no greater compliment than someone buying my work and saying it hangs on our wall and we tell a different story about it all the time. I wanted to tell a story. So definitely people. I want people looking at you. I love putting an animal in my work. My partner and I have 2 dogs and 2 cats, and they're always my models. And I love putting animals in and children. I never have them look at you. They don't ever look out because they're going to steal the show. They're often looking away. The kids, the animals, and the adult or the subject will be looking at you, and because you're going to go to the eyes. So I just love painting people. I think my medium still is drawing. I love to draw. I go into my studio and I put a book on Audible and I start to draw, and my blood pressure just comes down and I am in my happy place. It's just automatic to me, the drawing process. I think because, generally speaking, I paint in my studio from 10 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, and then I teach from 4 to 10. So I'm practicing all day long my craft, and then I am verbalizing and helping others with theirs during the day, from 4 to 10 at night. And I think that doing it and teaching it really, really hone your craft at a level intellectually and visually that nothing else will do. You've got to do it if you're teaching it. You've got to. And I am a painter. I would now call myself a painter. I think I've earned my stripes with that after years with Nelson. But that's all systems firing. That's turn the audio book off. I'm on. I'm engaged. Blood pressure's up. And I'm going at it, and I'm thinking and processing, and there's 100 things going through my brain at all times, many, many decisions. And but drawing, I'm relaxing. I love it. And having a great model in the studio. I have a wonderful North Light studio, and a lot of it's natural light. And now I'm doing a series of nighttime drawings, and it's a narrative. I love, it's not unique, but stories from my childhood. Wizard of Oz behind me, and taking a new take on that after going to see Wicked and thinking that the Wizard of Oz was blasphemy because, hold on, wait, the witch wasn't bad. She was poisoned by her father, the poor thing. And so I took a new narrative on it. What if the witch is beautiful and sexy and alluring? That's definitely more dangerous. And now I'm doing this series based on Oliver Twist, which I named so many dogs and cats in my life Oliver. It's old by now because I love that play so much. And I'm doing kind of like old London pickpocket series of young boys. And I have 3 grandsons, 13, 9, and 4. And then the 13 and the 9-year-old are posing for me. And I know their faces like the back of my hand, and they are more than game to get in costume and to definitely put a show on. And it's them running and robbing people, and it's wonderful. I'm enjoying this series. I can see probably about 8 drawings out of this series. I just completed the first one, and I'm already started on the second. So I rotate between drawing and painting.
Well, I think you're fantastic at both. I think you can well-deserved stripes, as you said. You can call yourself both. I think well-deserved both. There was something that you mentioned in talking with that, too, that when you bring your students, that you want them, when you go to a museum, if you're at the PMA or wherever you're at, to look at something that really engages you, something that is looking back at you as much as you're looking at it. So have you ever had a moment like that yourself with a particular piece of whether it's painting, a drawing, a sculpture? And if you have, talk a little bit about that.
Many. I've been very blessed to do a lot of travel through Europe. And I really think my favorite museums are still here in the States. And I have gone to the Isabel Stewart Gardner Museum. I've literally flown there in the morning and flown back at night. It was a gift given to me. To just spend time with Sergeant Zaleo. I absolutely love that painting. I will sit on the floor and plop my butt down and just sit and enjoy it. The motion, the lighting, the narrative, and again, I want a painting I can look at, and I just keep finding more story matter to it. More and more and more information's coming at me, and it's definitely that. I have William Merritt Chase. Keying up. I just have traveled to see that. It's at PAPA. I can go and see it, but it's also moved around, and absolutely love William Merritt Chase. We're blessed that the Philadelphia Art Museum has a nice collection of Antonio Mancini work, as does Isabel Stewart Gardner. So I would say they're probably my top 3 that are no longer living. I I really, it was a few years back, Stephen Scott Young, the watercolorist from the South, who does work from Bermuda. He does watercolors of children in Bermuda. Absolutely love his paintings. They always include people. I would say I don't usually have a favorite that is not, you know, with someone, a person in it, figurative pieces. And I'm also, though, I think still life. Jeffrey Larson, I'm really enjoying his still life work. I think he's an amazing painter. Oh, absolutely love Rob Liberace. I've been blessed to study with him and just sit and watch him do pen and ink drawings with passion and with clarity. And he's a true artist. You know, I always say when I find a vet, oh, they're the Dr. Dolittle of veterinarians, they're the best. Well, Rob Liberace is the Dr. Dolittle of artists. He just loves it, speaks it, and he teaches it well. And I love looking at his anatomy work. Holy moly. So I became an anatomist. I am pretty good at the human body and knowing the bones, muscles, tendons. I take pride in teaching it. But it was he who inspired me. And I was like, how do you know it? He would just ask a model to tweak a toe, and he'd know all the muscles that were going to react from it. And he said he was self-taught. He said it took me 9 years, and I set out to do the same with all the anatomy books every morning with my coffee, like a little anatomy nerd, and I learned it, taught it myself, and I love it. And I love his drawings because of the true knowledge and understanding and passion behind his work. His paintings are sensitive. So yeah, I think we're blessed with a lot of great art on the East Coast that is basically, you know, easy for us to get to and view.
Well, I couldn't argue that. I mean, I'm from Philly as well, so growing up, going to all those places, the Barnes, Woodmere, they're all fantastic museums in their own right. Your short drive from the Met, which is of course the Met. You know, New York has everything really. So there's no argument there. Now, I have a funny question. This is a little bit kind of off the cuff and sort of unique to you, because I suspect I may be onto something, because I do this myself at times. I was literally just telling this to a student of mine last night or 2 nights ago. Have you ever found yourself, not necessarily in any kind of a mean way or anything, or just sort of found yourself saying, you're at a gallery, you're at a museum, wherever you're at, and you're looking at something and you're analyzing it, and you say to yourself, that's wrong. Like whether it be like anatomy oriented or just like a drawing wise, you're like, that's not right. It sounds like maybe you have, because I know I have, and then you feel instantly bad because you almost feel like you're being like really critical and harsh, but you're like, yeah, but it's not right.
Yeah, I'm an art snob, and yeah, and people have the right to do that to my work, so I welcome that. No, yeah, I always say I'm actually teaching right now. My students are here being very quiet and wonderful working because I teach on Thursdays at 4. My partner's here. I get a lot of support right now. But I think often it's hard for a model to hold a hand in position, or a child to be in pose. They can't. So sometimes, you know, I'll make a dummy to specific sizes, dress the dummy with the person's clothes and their specs, and then they don't have to sit for it, you know, and to sit for the body. And then they'll come for the head, they'll come for the hands. I start it with them live, and then when I'm just doing the clothing, sometimes I can do that with a dress dummy. I think it's a really dangerous thing to not get opinions, to get other artists to come in and look, to take a photograph of it, look at it in bed at night as you're ready to fall asleep. Because when we're in the studio, we can just not see the mistakes. And whenever you're forced to shift gear from life to not life, I often think a lot of people will go to hands from photograph, and then the hands don't size relate. So I can always tell what's done from a photograph. And I often can see things that are sometimes a common mistake that's made that I pick up on because I'm real cognizant of it is, you know, models can do this, 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 and not even realize that there's this minor change. And when you go in for the finish and you're doing the eyes, that the eyes are here, but maybe you did the nose from here, and maybe you did the mouth from here. And that center line, and I have told my students, I will wait, let a painting dry, and go back and run lines through it to make sure I have not, as model has ever so slightly gotten tired, shifted in a chair, settled, that I didn't possibly disconnect that center line of, you know, through the glabella, through the tip of the nose, through the mental protuberance, getting this face on line, and also the axis of, you know, the eyes, nose, and lips. That can also move. And we can be so engrossed in studying and know what we're doing and really gifted and talented and still make those mistakes. So it helps to have some artist friends, and my students are very gifted, and I bring people in the studio, my partner's an artist. I'll have people look at my work, say anything feel off. And it was funny because my one son, he'll be real critical of my work. He can always pick out the mistakes, and he's not an artist. But he's like, that, I had a still life bottle in the scene. He says, that couldn't be at that angle. I was like, yes, it could. I argued that point left and right, and he was right. And he's not even an artist. So I would say to people, you know what, trust non-artist view of your work, because they're also professional seers. They see for a living. They see all their life, you know. They know when it's not right. So.
Well, sometimes, I think sometimes the person that's not trained, whether or not they're like a potential buyer or they're just somebody in your life, like my wife is brutally honest. And if she were standing here, she'd laugh and say, oh yeah, she has come into the studio plenty of times and said, no, you know, that's just not, you know, it doesn't work. She knows one of my tricks, and then I don't know if this is something that you as employ as well. I suspect perhaps you might, is you're talking about taking a picture of it and laying in bed at night, kind of looking at it and going, you know, what is this? You know, I love taking a mirror and setting up a mirror and looking at the reverse, because you'll see everything wrong. You know, you think you've got something, you're talking about that center line is proportionate, and all of a sudden it's just slightly tilted this way. And you know, then once you see it, you can't unsee the error, right? So then you know you have to change it. So, boy, this is I appreciate this so much, because the details, I think, matter. I stress this all the time to the students that I have, and then just in my own head, I'm always constantly looking at that, because if you don't pay attention to those types of details, any detail really, you know, I think you're just missing out, and you could be better if you focused on that. And
Yeah.
You're saying the same thing, really. You're saying, like, you know, first off, anybody that's never sat as a model for an artist has no idea of the struggle that it is to keep a pose right for 30 minutes. It is one of the most difficult things to do, and I would argue it's actually painful, depending on the type of pose. It can be very, very strenuous on the body. So to that point, it is so warming to my heart to hear somebody else stressing some of these same things. So I've got a couple of my students that have been tuned on to this. So if you're listening, I see that you're on here. So it's not just me that's stressing the same things. So
Yeah, and turning it upside down, you know, that flipping it so the other side of your brain gets a view at it. It only works for 3 seconds, but you know, if you don't, like, you flip it and then you look at it in 3 seconds, and then your brain writes it. But it's a big help to me too.
oh, yeah.
But to be critical at the end, because you know, you can keep doing something and not catch it, and then it's framed on the wall and you go, oh good Lord, like, how did I miss that? So now, you know, in the last 20 years now, I'm cognizant of the fact that can easily happen to all of us. So just really, really, really be brutally honest with your eyes. Be brutally honest at that end stage.
Absolutely. Now, one of the questions that I like asking people, and I'm really curious if you have an answer, your answer for this. Have you ever painted something or drawn something, because you're a drawer as well, that you we'll never part with. It's yours. You want it to stay in your possession, maybe the possession of one of your kids after you pass. Have you ever done something where you're like, this is not for sale, this is here?
Yeah, yeah. So I have 2 grown sons and 3 grandsons, and I told each son, pick your painting, it's yours, and I won't sell it. And then they kind of switch off of it. But the one son picked the painting that he painstakingly posed for in college when he was at his grumpiest, and I was paying his cell phone bill and cookies to keep him posing. But that painting, and us together working on that, and he posed. This was a very complex painting, and he was there the whole time live, standing in an awkward position with fake dreads too, and that ended up getting the Award of Excellence in the Portrait Society, the International Portrait Society show, and that's his, and that one I won't part with. And then my other son picked a large watercolor that was done a long time ago, but that won a lot of awards, and it sort of is dear to my heart. But I also believe I haven't reached my peak. I'm just full steam ahead, and if I created it, I can create better, and it's to be seen, it's to be out there, it's to be viewed. And I don't want to just hoard my own work. And when it sells, it's not the money, because that almost makes me sad, because that pays a bill, that pays a bill, and the bill's gone, it's done. It just seems so superficial, the money we get for our art, but the joy isn't the money. The joy is it's out there, and somebody else gets to see it and enjoy it and love it. And I sold to one of the pews in the Pew Foundation, and I got an email, God, like 10 years later, and they said, I'm sitting here having coffee, staring at your painting, and I absolutely love it. And it just moves me every time I look at it. And that's why we do it. And it's for me. I have to do it. It's who I am as a person. Being an artist is my middle name. It's who I am. I knew no other way. As I said, I was raised to do this. And I'm glad I was, because I probably would have been a veterinarian and a poor one for it, because I wouldn't have taken money. So it's good that I'm doing art. But it was just, this is my life, and it's what I do. And money is very little to do with it. It really, it's more the passion of needing to create.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said. So another question that I think would be I'm really curious of on a personal level, right? And I think there could be some fun insights for this for people that have tuned in or will tune in later. One question that I really like asking to people, and I'm really excited to ask this to you, anybody from art history, forget language barrier, just assume there's no language barrier, everybody can speak anyone's language. Is there one person from art history that if you could sit down and have dinner with, have drinks with, a cup of coffee, anything, is there one particular person that stands out in your mind that you're like, you know what, that's who I would want to sit down with and have dinner with?
Well, history would be MC Wyeth, because my father just raised me on a Wyeth clan, and I knew so much about them, and I was always taken to the Brandywine. And so my birthdays every year were, we would gather the kids together, go to a museum, and then go to this local dairy to get ice cream, until no one came to my birthday parties anymore. And it was just my dad and I would go, because how much does a 9-year-old want to see an art museum, right? And but it was always the Wyeths, and NC and Andrew and Jamie. NC I would really like, because he's self-made. He's sort of my struggle, that he also was very active in a family and needed to make money and needed to make money from his art. He had to do that, but he also was a passionate artist and passionate about his family. My problem in life is I have too many passions, and that's why I always joke, I have to live to be 103 to get rid of half of these. I have a lot of things I'm passionate about, and he seemed to struggle with that. He just wanted to be taken serious as an illustrator, and wanted to do real art because illustrators weren't respected. And then Andrew, but Jamie, who's still living, fascinates me. So believe it or not, if I could sit with anyone, it would be someone who actually could sit with me, and that's Jamie, because he grew up also groomed to be an artist, and he has that amazing rich history of that father and grandfather and all the artists that are in that family. And I was blessed. I went to the Brandywine River Museum one time when it was a cold, rainy day and it was almost empty. And this woman goes flying past me in a wheelchair. And I went, I saw her in pictures. That's Phyllis Wyatt. And I walk around the corner. True story. There is Jamie Wyatt standing in a tweed coat and a black turtleneck, looking at a painting of himself done by his father that year in a tweed coat and a black turtleneck. And he's talking to his wife about the painting, and his wife says, I want that painting. And I'm just standing back realizing what a moment in time this is. And I didn't want to introduce myself or, interrupt the situation or be that person. But I just remember thinking, oh man, this story. And with Nuria that he painted and Andy Warhol and the crowd that he went in, I think I would like to talk to Jamie Wyatt. I bet he has just such a rich history.
Well, there's no argument to there on that, and that's a fantastic. What an awesome insight, right, of a story that you have as a personal for that choice. I mean, I'm always kind of I don't want to say amazed or stunned, but like my curiosity is really piqued when I've asked this question to other artists. So I love just listening to it, and then to have a personal story attached is even more fantastic. And again, that's another museum in the Philadelphia area. It's in the suburbs in Chatsford, for those of you who are not familiar with the Philly area or know what we're talking about. It's a little tucked away. You got to go all the way down Route 1, almost to the Delaware border, really. And speaking of Delaware, there's actually going to be a great Wyeth show at the Biggs Museum in Dover that I think I just saw that's starting in a couple of weeks, actually. So that may be on your radar if you want to take a little hour or so trip south of Philly and come down to our Delaware area. Biggs Museum's a great museum. It's a little smaller, but it's kind of on par with the Brandywine. So, wow, what a really,
the Biggs? Cool... I don't think I ever even heard of it.
Well, Delaware, everybody thinks Wilmington, and then there's nothing, and then you've got Rehoboth Beach, and but there's a whole lot going on in Dover that's up there. I mean, I hate to say it, I live just a couple of minutes inland from Bethany and Rehoboth Beach, so I'm all the way down here too. But I mean, hence the whole water aspect of my work. So, wow, Wyeth, I mean, and that museum is fantastic. It's such a treasure to have there. And just the landscape around it. I mean, one, you've got the battlefield kind of right across the street almost, and then you've got that with that amount of work. It's really just a gem of that Chatsford area. And
it's
who
very
can argue with Wyeth?
friendly.
Any of the Wyeths.
Yeah. It's user friendly too. It's a comfortable museum to be in. It was an old grist mill, and it's just a warm and fuzzy. It's not, filled with guards that every time you look at something, they back up. So I just enjoy the accessibility you have to the art there. And Jamie Wyatt's The Pig is there, and the stories behind that. I read a book that he wrote on all the animal paintings that he did, and it was just, they're incredible families. So yeah, I think that's a gem that we have here as well.
It's making me miss my roots and wanting to get back up to and have the day to go to. You can't even do all the museums in a day. It's almost like an impossible thing to even like fathom. You've got the 3 museums right there on the Parkway in Philly, and you can't do all 3 of them in a day, let alone try to go all around the Philly area in a day.
True.
Good luck trying to drive 76 without traffic too, right? Well, I could sit here and talk for a whole other hour, but I know you have students, and I usually try to keep these like around 30 minutes, and we've kind of gone on almost to an hour now. So I apologize for taking up so much of your time, but I was so excited for this because I love your work, and I was so excited just to listen myself. I feel like I'm the interviewer, and I feel like I'm just sitting here with like my hands full, like teach me something else too. Like I'm on kind of pins and needles like that. So I always close these out by kind of giving you the floor. Talk to the viewers. Where can they see more of your work at? You're definitely going to be in the 95th Genie up in New York, but where else are you showing at the end of the year or maybe in the new year? Talk about any shows where people can see your work, and if they're interested in studying with you, how could they go about making that happen?
Okay, well, I have a really nice website, and it's RebeccaTait.com, Tait, and that has two aspects to it. It has my personal work, and it also has the studio at Glen Gables, which is my teaching studio here. I presently have a piece hanging at Studio in Caminati. We just had a big gala, and then my partner and I will be taking a piece up to the show on Sunday, and it will be there. And then I am hunkered down a bit right now. I've sold a lot of work. I've done a lot of commissions and finished that up recently. And I've decided to kind of hold on to this body of work and not sell it off individually. I have a lot of people that collect me, so I am not presently with a gallery but selling work independently. But I'm doing this body of drawings, and you don't see a lot of drawing series, so this is going to be a pretty big series, and it's probably going to take me a year, and then I don't know where it's going to take me, but I'll be approaching some galleries and see if it's a connection there. I've shown at RJD Gallery in the Hamptons at Women Painting Women, and I do enjoy being associated with a gallery, but after COVID, that kind of stopped, and then I never really started anything again because I had enough followers that I was able to sell my work and do commissions. But this body of work, I'd kind of like it shown together, so I'll see where that leads me. But that'll be on the website.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to be all eyes and ears for if and when a gallery show happens for those, because again, you're right. You just don't see a lot of drawings, and I have a bit of a kinship. I'll just say quickly for myself that drawing was really one of the things I focused on in my undergrad days with Chuck Schmidt and Susan Moore at Tyler. And I had such a large body of work of drawings. I was like, I don't know what to do with all of these right now. So I'm.
It is a lost art. It's just so many people are projecting now that, they are losing that ability to draw their own work. And I feel like if you don't draw it, it's like saying you're a piano player and sitting down at a player piano. It's like, come on, it's from start to finish. It's your craft. And I think it's extremely important to never lose the ability to draw.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. So again, thank you so much for taking basically an hour of your time. I apologize to your students who are probably anxiously awaiting with a bunch of questions and waiting for you. But thank you very much for sharing everything with us tonight. And there is just so much to unpack here for you, the viewers that are out there watching this live. Thank you again for tuning in. Every Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we're going to come to you with our members of the American Artist Professionally. I want to hear from everybody. I want to hear everybody twice. I can't wait to have a second conversation with you once we've talked to everybody else. But again, thank you for tuning in tonight, and I will see you on, if you're coming up on Sunday to drop your work off in person, I'll see you on Sunday in New York.
Wonderful. I look forward to it.
My pleasure. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you so much, John. Take care. Bye-bye.